Level 1. The recreational diver. Nobody tells you that the ocean doesn't care about you. Not in the way a mountain doesn't care, or a river doesn't care. The ocean is different. The ocean is 3/4 of the entire planet, and it has been here for 4 billion years, and in all of that time, it has never once made a single accommodation for the fact that human beings cannot breathe inside it. You find this out on your first open water dive at 9 meters off the coast of Thailand in water so clear and warm it feels like the ocean is being friendly. It is not being friendly. It is doing nothing at all. That is the lesson. You are 24 years old. You just got your PADI open water certification after 3 days of pool training and a checkout dive with an instructor named Marco who smelled like sunscreen and told you the ocean was magical. Marco has never been below 40 meters. Marco has never had to make a decision at depth where the wrong decision takes 6 seconds to kill you. Here is what 9 meters teaches you that Marco didn't mention. Pressure is not abstract. At 9 meters, the pressure on your body is nearly twice what it is at the surface. Your eardrums know this immediately. Your sinuses know this immediately. Every airspace in your body is being compressed by a physics equation that does not negotiate. You equalize. You descend. You see a sea turtle. You tell everyone about the sea turtle for 3 years. You have no idea what the ocean actually is yet. Level 2. The advanced diver. 2 years later, you have 60 logged dives, and you have started going deeper. And the deeper you go, the more the ocean shows you things about yourself that you did not ask to know. At 30 meters, something happens to your brain. It's called nitrogen narcosis, and the dive tables describe it as a mild euphoric effect similar to alcohol intoxication. That is the most dangerous understatement in the history of underwater documentation. What actually happens at 30 meters is that the nitrogen in your compressed air becomes psychoactive under pressure, and your brain starts making decisions with the confidence of someone who has had 4 drinks and the judgment of someone who has had 8. Divers call it the martini effect. 1 atmosphere of depth equals 1 martini. You are at 30 meters, that is 4 martinis, and you are holding a regulator in your mouth and making life-or-death decisions about buoyancy and air consumption and ascent rate, and everything feels completely fine, which is exactly the problem, because completely fine is what nitrogen narcosis feels like when it is actively removing your ability to assess whether anything is fine. You ascend, your brain clears. You sit on the dive boat in the sun and eat a sandwich, and your hands are shaking slightly and you cannot fully explain why. You book the next dive for tomorrow. Here is what 30 meters does to your body that the narcosis distracted you from noticing. The pressure at 30 meters is 4 times surface pressure. Every breath you take from the tank at that depth delivers 4 times the normal amount of dissolved nitrogen into your bloodstream. That nitrogen has to come back out when you ascend. It has to come out slowly, following the decompression tables exactly, or it forms bubbles in your blood and your joints and your spinal cord. Those bubbles are called decompression sickness. Divers call it the bends. The medical literature calls it a condition that can permanently paralyze you or kill you, and has done both to people who were more experienced than you are right now and ascended 3 meters too fast on a day when they were slightly dehydrated. You are always slightly dehydrated. The ocean dehydrates you from the outside, while the dry, compressed air dehydrates you from the inside, and nobody puts this in the brochure.
Level 3. The technical diver. Technical diving begins where recreational diving ends, and where common sense starts to have a conversation with itself about whether this is a good idea. You are now diving below 40 meters. This is the recreational limit, the depth beyond which the standard no decompression rules no longer apply, and you cannot simply ascend to the surface if something goes wrong. Below 40 meters, you are committed. The decompression obligation you accumulate on the way down must be repaid on the way up at specific depths for specific durations, and if you skip any part of that repayment, the nitrogen in your blood will remind you with a pain that starts in your joints and works its way toward your spinal cord. You are breathing trimix now, a blend of oxygen, nitrogen, and helium, because below 60 meters, pure air becomes toxic. The oxygen in standard compressed air becomes a convulsant at depth, which is the medical way of saying it will give you a grand mal seizure underwater with no warning while you are 60 meters from the surface in water that cannot sustain human life. The helium displaces enough nitrogen to prevent narcosis and enough oxygen to prevent toxicity, and costs 4 times what a normal fill costs, and makes your voice sound ridiculous on the surface, which is the least of your concerns. Your equipment has doubled. You carry twin tanks on your back and stage cylinders clipped to your sides, each cylinder containing a different gas mixture for a different depth range. You have 2 dive computers. You have a redundant regulator. You have a surface marker buoy and a reel and a torch and a cutting tool and a lift bag and a slate and a compass, and the total weight of your equipment is approximately 55 kilograms.
You put all of this on, and you walk backward off the dive platform into the water, and you descend into the dark. Below 40 meters, the color red disappears first, then orange, then yellow. By 60 meters, the water around you is entirely blue-gray, and your torch beam is the only warm color in the world. The surface above you is a pale circle of light that gets smaller as you go deeper, and at 80 meters it is the size of a coin, and at 100 meters it is smaller than that, and you are breathing helium oxygen in the dark, and the silence down here is not the silence of a quiet room. It is the silence of a place that has never contained sound that a human being made. Your decompression obligation at this depth means you cannot go home for 2.5 hours. You will ascend in stages, stopping at 50 meters, then 40, then 30, then 20, then 6, hanging in the water column in the dark, doing nothing except breathing and waiting for your body to off-gas the nitrogen it accumulated on the way down. 2.5 hours of hanging in blue-black nothing at various depths, waiting for your blood to become safe again. You do this because something lives down here that does not exist in the world above the surface, and you need to see it. Your friends think you are insane. Your doctor has opinions. Your body is accumulating a very specific kind of damage that will not fully announce itself for years. Level 4. The Cave Diver. Cave diving has a statistic that the recreational diving community does not advertise. It kills experts. Not beginners who made the obvious mistakes. Experts. People with thousands of logged dives and technical certifications and equipment worth more than most cars, who went into an underwater cave system and did not come back out, and whose bodies in many cases are still in there, because the cave they died in is the same cave that would kill the rescue divers sent to retrieve them. You understand this statistic. You have read the accident reports. You have studied the specific chain of decisions that preceded each fatality, the small normalizations of risk, the visibility that was slightly worse than the plan accounted for, the guideline that was slightly more tangled than expected, the moment where the situation diverged from the briefing and the diver made a choice that seemed reasonable and was the last choice they made. You go in anyway. Because cave diving is the only environment on Earth where the surface is genuinely unreachable. In open water, if everything fails, you ascend. In a cave, if everything fails, you navigate. In zero visibility, in silt-out conditions, where your torch illumines nothing but the particles your own fins stirred up, back through the cave system along the guideline that is your only connection to an exit that may be 300 meters away in the dark. The rule is the rule of thirds. 1/3 of your gas to go in, 1/3 to come out, 1/3 for emergencies. The rule of thirds sounds conservative until you are 300 meters inside an underwater cave in zero visibility, with your guideline in your left hand and your gas gauge showing 2/3 gone because the emergency already happened and you are navigating out by touch in the dark. The cave does not care about your certifications. The cave does not care about your experience. The cave does not care. Level 5. The Saturation Diver. Saturation diving is not a sport. It is not a hobby. It is not an extreme pastime pursued by people who want an interesting answer to the question of what they do on weekends. Saturation diving is an industrial process in which a human being is compressed to the pressure of their working depth and kept at that pressure for up to 28 days continuously, living, sleeping, eating, working, and existing inside a pressurized habitat the size of a large van, so that the offshore energy industry can weld and cut and repair pipelines and wellheads at depths between 100 and 300 meters on the ocean floor. You live in the saturation system for the entire duration. You eat there, you sleep there, you use the bathroom there. You breathe heliox, a mixture of helium and oxygen, at such high pressure that your voice is permanently altered into something that sounds like a cartoon character being played at the wrong speed. You watch films on a small screen, you read books, you talk to the surface through a communication system. You do not go outside except to work. When you go outside to work, you climb into a diving bell, a pressurized chamber that is lowered to the work site. The bell doors open at depth, and you exit into 300 meters of ocean in a dry suit and a hot water heating system, because at 300 meters, the water temperature is approximately 2 degrees Celsius, and without the hot water heating system pumped directly into your suit from the surface, you would lose consciousness from hypothermia in minutes. You work for 6 hours. You weld, you cut, you manipulate equipment with hands that are receiving instructions from a supervisor on the surface who is watching a camera feed of your work. You complete the task, you climb back into the bell returns to the saturation system. You eat dinner, you sleep, you do it again tomorrow, for 28 days. Here is what 28 days at saturation pressure does to a human body. Your joints accumulate damage with every pressurization cycle. Long-term saturation divers develop a condition called dysbaric osteonecrosis. The pressure destroys bone tissue in the hips and shoulders, silently, without pain, until one day, years after you stop diving, the bone collapses and the joint requires replacement. Your hearing degrades. Your lung tissue changes. The long-term neurological effects of extended heliox breathing at extreme pressure are not fully understood because the sample size of people who have done this enough times to produce longitudinal data is very small and getting smaller. The pay is $1,200 a day, sometimes more. You are in a pressurized van on the bottom of the North Sea, and your hip is going to need replacing in 12 years, and the bone damage is already happening right now, and you cannot feel it. You eat your dinner, you watch a film, you go to sleep at 300 meters below the surface of the ocean. Tomorrow, you will weld another pipeline. The ocean has no idea you are here. It never did. It never will. That is the thing you finally understand at level 5 that you could not understand at level 1 when you saw the sea turtle and thought the ocean was magical. It was never magical. It was never anything. It is just water and pressure and dark. And you chose to go into it anyway, every single time.